was, maybe 3 months ago. Yeah, and this is our third group. So what we've been doing is part of the training is going to involve telecom. So we're going to start off with just some basic telecom, look at some fundamentals. I'd like to look at the kind of the industry as a whole, just some of the properties of mobile telecommunications. What are some of the things mean, like cellular? What's a second generation or a third generation or a fourth or a fifth? And just to kind of get nothing in real deep details, but just enough information to just so you have a good foundation on telecom. So these are the areas: mobile telecom fundamentals, and we'll talk a little bit about the protocols. We'll look at voice services and architectures, and then we also want to include things like security, and kind of a lot of this is the lack of security in telecom, which is the need for firewalls. So anyway, let me introduce myself. My name is Steve DeVries. I'm located in the central time zone in the United States. If you know roughly where Chicago is at, that's probably the closest city. I'm probably 30 or 40 miles south of the city of Chicago in the state of Illinois in the central time zone of the United States. So I'm 5 hours behind you, so it's just 1:15 p.m. now. So I've been with Cellusys since 2017, and I'm currently the head of training and development at Cellusys. Prior to that, I worked as a telecom training contractor. Prior to that, I worked at Bell Communications Research, Bellcore. And Bell Communications Research changed its name, became Telcordia Technologies in the late 1990s, and stayed there until like 2003, early 2004. So I worked on a lot of the earlier protocols, SS7, since back in the 1980s when I was at Bellcore. I worked on some X.25, which was kind of, by today's standards, these are pretty primitive telecommunications protocols. Before that, I was a technical support manager at Ameritech. Prior to that, I did central office maintenance. That was at Illinois Bell Telephone. And even when I was much younger, I did station installation. I did coin phone repair. Some of you probably never seen a coin phone except maybe in a museum. I did pole climbing. I did a lot of the outside plant work. And I spent 4 years in the United States Navy also. So as you can see, I've been around for a little bit, and I'm very, very pleased to be able to present this session with you. So anyway, that's just a little bit about myself. Yeah, please. So yeah, no problem. So yeah, and I would like to keep this as informal as possible. We have to mute that because there's a noise that's yeah, there's just some kind of outside noise. That's all right. Um, I'd like to keep this informal. I know it's not easy sometimes. Asking questions is not easy. We have a distance between us, but as much as possible, let's keep this informal and just pretend we have a conference room table. So if you have any questions, please just let me know. You can raise your hand, but now the way I arrange my screens here, I can see all of you over to my right. That's my second screen, and the actual screen that has the slides is straight in front of me. So I don't always glance over to my right. So sometimes you might just have to just unmute yourself and just if you have any questions, let me know. If questions arise during the week, please contact Raphael, and he can send them on to me. I know there's a lot of new terms, a lot of new acronyms, a lot of new things in telecommunications. So I will do my best not to over acronym the the sentences. We'll define the acronyms and what they're used for. So again, the areas that we want to cover now, we've got a lot of area to cover, and we're only going to be meeting 1/2 of an hour each week. So I'd like to cover mobile telecom basics, look at some of the basic principles, the terms, and just kind of an overview of mobile telephony. Another important part of mobile telephony is the different identities. You have an identity in your phone number. Your family, your friends use that number to send you a text. They use that number to call you. But there's a lot of other identities that are needed. There are temporary identities. There are routing identities. There's identities that identify your home network to the system. So it's important, I think, to understand at least some of these identities, at least at a high level. Protocols are kind of what we call the lifeblood of the network. It's the way these networks communicate with each other. So when you're in your home network, these networks need to communicate, they need to update your location. But it's also important when you roam, when you get on an airplane and you go to another country and you power your mobile phone on. There's a lot of communication that goes back and forth between these two networks. Now, if everything was the same, if things, all the generations were the same, it'd be quite simple. However, some networks are on older generations, some are on newer generations, some are on data only, some are on circuits and data. So there's a lot of mixtures out there. So again, we're going to try and look at these different protocols. The primary protocols we're going to look at are Signaling System 7, Diameter, something called GPRS Tunneling Protocol, and SIP. And again, we'll define all these. You just kind of think of these protocols as the structure of the data. We need to understand how voice works. Today's networks, today's mobile networks are all IP. They're all data. But there are still services that require dedicated circuits, things like short message service, things like voice. So there are still some of these circuit type services. So we need to at least understand how voice is handled. Another very important thing, that something that you use all the time, is short message service. You tap out someone's telephone number and you give them a short message. Hey, let's meet for training today. That message can be sent anywhere in the world. How does it know where you're at? How does it find you? How does it get that exact message to only to your one mobile phone? So SMS is an important thing also. And then security. Most of these protocols that we're going to look at are legacy protocols. What I mean by legacy is they were written quite a few years ago. They were written at a time when security was not even really thought of. So they need protection. They need, because there are a lot of bad actors out there that can intercept calls. They can intercept your identity on your mobile phone. They can cancel you out of the system, and they can become you and receive your text messages. So there's a lot of mischief that can go on in the telecom network unless it's protected. So it's important to have these different protocols protected. And these protocols do different things. Some of them carry data packets. Some of them are used to update your location. Some of them are used to cancel your location. Some of them are used for setting up a circuit, a voice path. Some of those are used for voice over IP, which is your voice is now packetized. So there's a lot of different variables. But these are the areas we're going to try and cover now, and it'll be a high level. But again, we want to keep this very, very informal. So with that, let's at least introduce the first lesson here, and that's our first module. And we got quite a few slides here, about 100 some slides. So this will take us several weeks to get through this. So this particular module is going to look at just the industry overview, some of the network architecture, the identities, and then the generations. We won't get real far today. We've only got about 8 or 9 minutes left, but we'll at least get started. And then a week from today, we can just pick up right where we left off. And again, if you have any questions, please let me know. If you have any questions that come up during the week, or if there's a topic that you want more information on, please let me know. So this is what we're going to do. The contents for this lesson will be just what we just talked about, the mobile telecom basics, look at some of the basic principles, terms, and an overview of the mobile telecom industry. You see maybe a cell phone, you maybe see a store or storefront where they sell phones, but that's about it. But there's a lot that goes on in the background. There's a lot that makes it happen for mobile telephony. When you have a wired network, like the older networks that used to be wired to your home, it was pretty easy to find you. Your telephone number was associated with that address. But the fact that you're mobile complicates things, and the fact that you can move anywhere in the world complicates things a lot. But it does work. So we'll look at identities. Again, there's different identities. And the generations. You might have heard the terms, this is a 5G network, or this is LTE, or this is 3G or 2G. These are just, again, terms that the industry uses, different architectures for different needs. Back in the 1990s, the needs for mobile telephony was just digital telephony, just mobile, just the fact that this is a brand new thing with mobile telephony. By the early 2000s, there was some data. Not a lot, maybe things like, you might be able to download some documents, some emails, maybe some picture sharing. By the time you got to the 2010s, now you're downloading videos, now you're downloading pictures, now it's using high-speed data. And all that means different architectures, all that means different ways that you deliver this. You can't, a mobile phone network of the 1990s would never today be able to download a video. And if you'd start to download a video, you might as well go to bed and wake up in the morning and that thing will still be downloading. So again, we have different architectures. So there's different motivations and different drivers for each of these generations. And then the protocols, the actual zeros and ones that go from point to point. So yeah, it's quite a gadget. I mean, from a gadget that started off just for convenience and mobility, today it much longer battery life. Early mobile phones, if you got a half hour out of them, you were lucky. Performance today, the graphics today, the broadband speeds today, the ability of the camera and the sound, they are quite an amazing device today. So being that it is that amazing gadget, like I said, you probably maybe see a phone store and occasionally you'll see a cell tower. So oftentimes you can go for a long time without even seeing a cell tower. Well, how does that signal get to that cell tower? How does it get there? So how does it work? And how does it know where you are? How can it bill you if you're on the other side of the continent? If you fly over to another side of the continent or go to Europe or America or something, how does it know where you are? How does it know how to bill you? And how does the visited system know what subscription you have? Maybe you subscribe to services like call forwarding or call waiting. Well, when you go over to another network halfway around the world, that subscription information has to go over there also. So again, there's communication that needs to go back and forth. And how does it know when you're roaming? How does it know how to deliver a short message to that exact cell tower where you happen to be at? So yeah, it is quite an amazing gadget. And we'll stop. Let me get a couple more slides here. Whenever we start this thing, I like to kind of give credit to the kind of the four pioneers who really played a large part in wireless. And the first one was this gentleman here, James Clerk Maxwell. He mathematically theorized that there was waves, electromagnetic waves. He didn't have any practical demonstration, but mathematically he proved that electromagnetic waves exist. The fact that electromagnetic waves were really there was high megahertz. So this is several years later. Hertz actually demonstrated that these electromagnetic waves exist. Um, Marconi proved that these waves could travel. And he did that by down here in the right hand side, you'll see on December 12th, 1901. He tapped out the letter S, which in Morse code is dot, dot, dot. And he sent it from Cornwall, England, and picked it up in St. John's, Newfoundland. So it went across the Atlantic Ocean. Now, this would be an an amplitude modulated wave. There's believe it or not, no one really knows. He is credited with that. He proved that these waves could travel. So again, these are kind of the three top pioneers. And another one was back in the 1930s, a guy by the name of Edwin Armstrong. He developed a different technique to modulate these electromagnetic waves. Instead of amplitude modulation, instead of varying the amplitude, he varied the frequency. That's called FM, or frequency modulation. It allowed for a much clearer signal. You know that if you listen to an FM radio, the signal is much clearer than it is on AM. But it doesn't travel as far. It has different characteristics. But Edwin Armstrong developed frequency modulation. So these are kind of the top four, and there's other ones also. These are kind of the top four pioneers in electromagnetic waves. When you think of wireless communication, all these electromagnetic waves are in bands. And the lowest band, which starts at 3 hertz, the lowest band is what's known as the radio band. And the radio band has several of these sub-bands within it. After radio comes infrared and visible light, ultraviolet, X-ray, and gamma, and cosmic rays, and so on. But within the radio spectrum, it starts off at 3 hertz. Now, 3 hertz is an extremely long wavelength. It's just by hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of miles, this wavelength. But it's used for things like submarine communication. This would be at that frequency, it follows the curvature of the Earth. It's a very, very low frequency. And so these are extra low and super low and so on. But up in this band here, when you go up a little higher to 300 megahertz up to 3,000 megahertz, in this band here, a lot of things are going on there. And TV is in that band, microwave is in that band, local area networks, but also wireless communications occurs in that band. Now, some of the wireless communications is kind of at the low end of that band. Some of the wireless communications is a little bit higher end of that band. But that's a very ideal frequency. The higher the frequency goes, the better the signal. However, the more it takes on the characteristics of light, and it dies out much quicker. It's called attenuation. It doesn't travel as far. It's a very good signal. It's a very high speed signal, but it doesn't travel as far, so you need more and more and more antennas. When you get lower frequencies down here, it takes more power to get them out, so your battery life is not as good. Kind of the ideal frequency, the ideal range for mobile communications is right in this band here. And that's where most of your cellular exists. And we'll take a look at a little bit more of that later on. But most of your cellular is right around the 800 megahertz. That's the UHF TV is in that band. Some of it's a little bit higher than that, but those are kind of the ideal frequencies that your mobile telecommunications operates on. It's a good frequency. The signal will travel far. The signal will also go through windows and walls. If you didn't have that, if everything was a high frequency, like up in this range, it would never be able to go through a wall. Again, it takes on more of the characteristics of light the higher you go. So that's a very ideal band. So a lot of things are happening at that frequency. Okay, I think we're going to, let me see what's next here. I think we're going to call it Yeah, we'll look at some wireless properties next time. Okay, thank you. I'm going to, okay, okay. Thank you, and we'll enjoy your weekend, and we'll see you all next week. Okay? Very good. Thanks, y'all. Cheers. Bye-bye.